Hello, this is Scott Ferguson. Today what we're going to do is review some of the content specifically around Sarbanes-Oxley, also known as SOX. As part of the content is a dashboard, and this dashboard gives internal auditors or compliance teams access to and visibility into the current state of their SOX compliance activities. When we look at the Compliance Overview tab, a couple of key things to point out. First, the number of failed controls of 4. You'll also see that in the donut chart here, and either one of these gives us the ability to drill into and see the controls that are SOX related that are currently non-compliant. This is incredibly important for publicly traded companies. In this case, we can see that I've got 4 controls. For human resources, for AR, for general ledger. These controls are non-compliant, and if I drill into any one of these controls, I can see the details behind that. In this case, the general ledger group and the policy statement or the control around prepaid accruals, the details that go with that, additional information. This is a mandated control by Sarbanes-Oxley, and we can see that that's non-compliant. There is a GRC attestation, and we'll see that here in just a few moments, but that attestation is a questionnaire that someone would respond to provide evidence that that control has been implemented, and in this case, where we've generated an issue because of something that's gone wrong in testing of that particular control. Going back to my dashboard, you'll also see the number of controls by area. So there are many controls around revenue recognition, but also some around things like fixed assets or treasury or human resources, the various areas in the organization that have controls that we have to be able to monitor and report on from a compliance perspective to make sure that we are compliant with anything for a publicly traded company. When we look at the audit overview, being SOX compliant is the process that you go through to evaluate the effectiveness of those controls. And in many cases, the control is going to have 2 parts, the design and the operational piece. Design is the control designed properly for the organization? Has it been implemented properly? Is the process of compliance well defined in the organization? And then the operational part of that is, are people following it? An example here internally at ServiceNow would be our travel and expense policy. There's a process that's built in that says we have to submit receipts if it's over a certain dollar figure. There are things that are in that policy that's part of the process, that's part of the design. And then whether or not I or you or any one of us actually submit the receipts is the operational side. And both parts of those would be tested as part of an audit. So what you see in the Audit Overview dashboard is the tasks of evaluating the design and the operational tests of an individual control. They have to be done within a certain period of time. So you see in this case different reports that say ones that are over 90 days past due or 30 to 60 days, or ones that are pending, things that have to be done right now. And we're going to see various ways to look at that data, who has them, who they may be assigned to and the state that those are in. But I could drill into any one of those and see that particular control test. And in that control test, we're going to see those parts that I was talking about, the design test, the operational test, and in this case, I could mark these as effective or ineffective, and that's going to automatically update my control effectiveness for that particular control. Leaving the control and going back to our dashboard, the next thing as we go through here is the issue overview. So the compliance overview was all about the controls themselves. The control themselves and whether or not they're effective. The audit overview was the tasks that go in making sure that the controls are compliant. The issue overview is after the audit, right? If we've identified something in the environment that wasn't right, I have a control that's non-compliant, or something was identified or uncovered during the audit process, we're going to generate issues. And those issues can be a lot of different things. They can be audit findings, they can be observations, they can take on many different flavors. But in this case, my dashboard is going to give me visibility into what my open SOX issues are. And I can see, we've got some reports around closure rate and how quickly we're addressing these, or in this case, what my open issues are. And in this case, there's one for revenue recognition, there's one for fixed assets for general ledger. And in any one of these, I could go into the details of that issue. I could see what's being done about it, the different activities, what dates may be tied to it and when someone needs to respond, as well as an SLA. So there's an SLA that is tied to that particular issue that forces or escalates and notifies individuals within the organization as this issue ages over time. Going back to our dashboard, then we also have the attestations. So in the ongoing process of addressing controls, is you have a set of attestations that a control owner would have to complete. And in this case, as we go through the annual process of attesting to an individual control, an attestation is where someone's going to attest or say, they're going to state, yes, I've implemented this control. Here's the evidence and any other additional information that they need to provide for the auditor to know that, yes, this control is in place, and the evidence that went with that to know that everything's being done to make sure that the control is being followed. And then finally, from a risk perspective, as we evaluate these controls, whether it's the attestation, it's the control test done during audit, or it's the issues after the fact, all of those things impact risk. If in this case, in the example that we've walked through here, we've had some controls that were non-compliant around revenue recognition, right? And revenue recognition control being out of compliant has a direct impact in our ability to accurately report numbers to the street. And there's going to be a risk there that has to be identified. And we can drill into any one of these. And if I look at, in this case, revenue recognition type of risks, there are going to be risks around, it's not recorded to the proper GL account, or revenue is not valued appropriately, or it may not be accurate or valued to the street. Those are all risks that can be impacted by a control and are all part of the content that's part of the SOX deliverables that we're releasing as part of the Kingston. So we see here with the dashboard, we've got controls that are going to be managed through the compliance dashboard, the audit and the audit tasks that are going to be on the audit dashboard, issues that are the follow-up, attestations that are being done to collect evidence for control implementation, and finally how all four of those go together to impact the risks to the organization. As we conclude, ServiceNow uses GRC to maintain SOX compliance, and we have seen savings in both time and in money improving our SOX compliance to the street. That about wraps it up. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to check out the website for additional information, and I appreciate your time.